The primary concept behind having a national cert is really to have that focal point that protects national security, public safety, as well as the stability of the economy by primarily ensuring that our cyber posture is correct. I like to liken it to a police or your NDF or the other security forces on the ground. So the CERT is your sort of police, if I could call it that, in the cyberspace. And we are also vested with an aspect of territorial sovereignty as far as the cyberspace of Namibia is concerned. We also have been mandated to assist with building cybersecurity capacity within the country by fostering expertise as well as preparedness. And we have quickly come to learn that there is a lot of opportunities for collaboration as far as this particular aspect of our mandate is concerned. Then, of course, the last one is that cyber incidences are not territorial, they are quite borderless, and therefore a lot of our work focuses on facilitating international collaboration and information sharing on cybersecurity threats as well as issues pertaining to global security. As I've mentioned in the beginning, the CERT was born out of government's policy commitment to improve Namibia's cybersecurity posture. It was also recognized in the National Cybersecurity Strategy Awareness and Raising Plan of 2022 to 2027. And then in 2018, government finally gave a directive to CREN for CERT to be then housed under CREN and for CREN to then have that mandate to operationalize the CERT. In 2023, government backed up this commitment with a seed funding of about $20 million over a period of 3 years, and this money was then utilized to secure office space, your systems, your tools, as well as the employees that are required in order to operationalize the CERT. Our mission is to be a trusted cyberspace that drives Namibia's digital growth and innovation. And the rationale behind the vision is really to create an environment where people can trust information security, utilize digital services without fear of threats or attacks, as well as to really ensure that we foster a secure online platform for the deployment of emerging technologies as we move into our digital space. Our mission is to pioneer Namibia's cyber defense, ensuring digital security as well as infrastructure resilience. And once again, around that, we have issues of data sovereignty, security, integrity, resilience of digital infrastructure, as well as ensuring that our digital services remain not only available, but reliable. The objectives of the CERT, as I've mentioned in the beginning, are really targeted at safeguarding the digital well-being of our cyberspace. We also set out to serve as the forefront defense against cyber threat and also to then be a central hub for incident response coordination, threat intelligence sharing, as well as best practice dissemination from a national focal point. Our governance structure is that the CERT reports to ultimately the Minister of ICT, but from a CREN perspective, the board has the governance, strategic, financial oversight. The CREN CEO is also doubling as the head of the CERT, who then takes accountability for strategic and operational implementation. The CREN EXCO provides the level of support, and this was really because the indication from government was that they do not want to see another new entity that is sort of top-heavy with a new head, new executives, and all of that. They wanted the structure to be lean so that most of the funding and the activities would then go into securing the threat intelligence tool, but then also hiring the technical level, which is really the level that gets to do the actual work that is required. And for that, we then have a substantive position for an executive of the CERT. In the past, it was cybersecurity and ICT, but because the work of the CERT has now started to pick up, we've split the two positions. So we have one that just deals with ICT, and then one that is then herding the operational implementation of the CERT. We also then have a manager for cybersecurity, we have a supervisor, and then we have specialists for cybersecurity who are really your incident handlers. There is obviously an operational charter between CREN and the CERT, because from a financial perspective, the two operations need to be different, and the CERT would then reimburse CREN for whatever administrative and operational support that is rendered to the CERT. In terms of implementation phases, the 2018 implementation plan that was approved had 3 phases, and I believe that with this financial year we are in the final phase. So the first phase was what we like to call the phase 0, which was the non-financial activities, and this was really the phase during the time when we did not have any financial commitment. So we primarily looked at organizational design as well as the operational requirement and getting all those baby steps out of the way. Phase 2, this was after we secured the funding. So we were looking at establishment, continuity of operations, starting also to provide the initial services as well as an extension of basic and reactive as well as proactive services. Phase 2 is the expansion of the operational portfolio via the core team, capacity building, governance frameworks, policies, constituent relationships, as well as collaborations with the CERT, and then providing proactive services offering as well as vulnerability handling. And this was the phase that we implemented in 2024. And now in 2025, we have moved into phase 3, which looks at a fully fledged CERT. We are reassessing our local cyber landscape, including and reviewing our strategic plan. I think some of you have been invited to those meetings. And then we are also doing a CERT maturity assessment. This is just to make sure that we are meeting the requirements that have been given to us both by ITU but also Africa CERT and the different operational standards that we need to comply with. And this is important because it then speaks to the core, the integrity and the validity of the work that we do, because if it doesn't meet the level of assessment, then nobody would really take the handling and the intelligence that we provide seriously. These are just some of the milestones that we have achieved between 2024 and 2022 and 2024. We have secured the operational office space. I'm not sure where we are, but I think the CERT sits in that building right across the road. We have also developed, and the board and the ministry have approved our governance framework as well as all our operating policies. We have completed the implementation of the operational hardware and the software tools, although this was really for the first phase, because with the tools, we continuously need to upgrade our service offering to make sure that we have the correct level of threat intelligence. We have appointed most of our technical staff members, and we have also started with continuous capacity building. Strategic partnerships and collaborations, we have partnered with a number of CERTs across the globe, and also some of the other fellowships, which then just validates the work that we do. But the strategic partnerships are also key because in cybersecurity, especially when it comes to incident handling And being a national focal point, it's important that you are part of the correct platforms in order to receive the correct level of intelligence, and also in a timeous manner. And this ties in then also with our international affiliations and memberships. Last month, we reached a milestone where we were accepted to be part of the SADC CERT. That was quite a milestone for us because they do a lot of work. We are now looking to join Africa CERT and some of the other affiliations. The other one that we're doing, which is ongoing, is the constituency support and engagements. We are looking at onboarding public and private institutions to become constituents of the CERT. And this is simply because we receive a lot of intelligence about our landscape and incidences that are happening. And because of the security levels, we are careful not to put this intelligence into the wrong hands. And this is why we encourage institutions to come on board and to be properly validated as constituents of the CERT, because then you get to benefit from that intelligence and from the support that the CERT is able to give. Then we also do a lot of regular cybersecurity reporting to stakeholders. We launched last month for the first time our Namibia Cybersecurity Landscape Report of 2024, which really looks at the cybersecurity landscape for Namibia, which is something that we did not have in the past. And then we have also launched the website. We have a logo. The CERT also has a corporate identity. We're still trying to reposition it as far as its relationship to CREN is concerned, but the idea is then to have it as an independent entity that has a corporate identity of its own. For the year 2024, we have handled as incident response and handling 6 high-risk cybersecurity incidences involving Namibian, both public and private sector, as well as government institutions. And the types of incidences that we have handled is the ransomware, which is quite popular, web application vulnerability, and everything else that we are listing there. And we have issued this, and if you look at our landscape report for 2024, you'll be able to get a bit more of a breakdown and details in terms of what was the nature of the incident and what is it that we have picked up. Obviously, in terms of security clearance, there is certain levels of information that we cannot disclose, also just to protect the integrity of the clients that we have assisted, but I think some of these incidences were of public knowledge. The one thing that we want to encourage is that we sit with an overwhelming amount of intelligence, and because we have also published our RFC 35, we receive a lot of coordination from other CERTs. Every time they pick up something about Namibia, they channel it to us. But what we are picking up is that when we do come to your institution and say, hello, we have this intelligence on you, then people don't want to admit that this is actually happening on their network. And unfortunately, for some of the incidences that we handled, had people actually paid attention at the time that these issues were flagged by the CERT, then the incident handling would have been better and it would not have become as messy as it did later on. So we really just encourage that we are open to receive this intelligence and also to receive the support. I would then, ladies and gentlemen, like to take you to our global cybersecurity trends. The ITU is the United Nations Specialized Agency for Telecommunications, and they do a ranking for countries to test the cybersecurity maturity for each country. And what we are seeing from a country perspective, so firstly, I think they look at capacity development measures as far as your cybersecurity landscape is concerned. They look at your cooperation measures, they look at your technical measures, and then they look at the legal measures. And this is why you saw when I was talking about the milestones of the CERT, if you could classify them, they would also be then speaking to this particular areas. What we are pleased to report is that if you compare our 2020 ranking, we had scored 11.47. This, I believe, is out of 100. But in 2024, there was an improvement where we scored 36.93. And Namibia is then classified as a Tier 4 country as far as cybersecurity is concerned, with Tier 1 being the top tier. And we are then qualifying as an evolving landscape. Now, this classification obviously reflects our efforts to evaluate, establish, or implement cybersecurity measures as well as strategies in at least one pillar or multiple indicators within the assessment framework. And I believe that one of the reasons why our scoring is so low is because of the technical measures, because at the time when the ranking was done, we had not yet done the full establishment to the level that we have it today. But the other one is also the legal measures, because the CERT is currently operating as a best practice collaborative type of entity, because we do not have a law that champions the work that we are doing. And this is why we've been having multiple conversations with the Ministry of ICT to try and push for the cybersecurity bill as well as the data protection bill to be implemented, because that is then one of those key items that has led to us being scored rather poorly, albeit the fact, of course, that there is an improvement. It's still very low, because this is not where we would like to be as a country. As I move to the end, I would like to speak briefly about the global cybersecurity trends. And what we're picking up is that state-sponsored cyber threats pose a strategic risk to Namibia's national security, as these attacks frequently target government institutions, both from a critical infrastructure and critical information infrastructure perspective. And why this becomes a big threat is because we do not even have a law that gives us a legal definition or a legal classification for what constitutes critical infrastructure or critical information infrastructure. And it then becomes difficult for us to be able to take those steps to ensure that they are securely protected. What we are picking up, and I think we had an incident beginning of this year, is that when it comes to critical infrastructure and information infrastructure, it's not just about the security, it's not just about its cyber security, but it's also about the physical security. Because we have picked up that sometimes when they want to hack you, first they undermine your physical security, and whilst you're busy with physical security, then they get to the cyber infrastructure. In addition, we are also picking up that the healthcare sector, which has seen a lot of digitization in recent years, faces heightened risks from cyber criminals that are seeking to exploit sensitive patient data. I think we'd all recall Namibia is not an exception to this. In December last year, it was reported in the media that our Ministry of Health had suffered some sort of vulnerabilities. And this is a trend that we are picking up more and more. And what we realize is also that the cyber criminals are actually, most of them want money. So they are always looking to have data that is sensitive, that would then compel their negotiations and all these ransomware that they, or the ransoms that they seek governments to pay. The other trend which Interpol has noted is that ransomware attacks are aimed to intensify their focus on critical infrastructure across Africa. And this is why it's important that we have laws not only defining critical infrastructure, but also then setting out the parameters that one must take in order to ensure that they are protected. There is obviously also issues around operational technologies, industrial control systems. The trends are all predicting that those are areas that one must look out for. For Namibia and the African continent, it then means that we need to try and ensure that we are resilient as far as especially our utilities are concerned. And this is industries like energy, water, and telecommunications. I don't know if we have ever imagined what it would mean if the water infrastructure, for instance, suffered a cyber attack here in Namibia. I don't know if we can imagine what that type of catastrophe would look like. And this is always important, or even electricity or even energy. Telecommunications, I'm sure we'll all go crazy because we want to hold on to our devices all the time. But these are some of the trends. And the trends for us as a country really just mean that we need to get our law right. We need to get our technical component right. But that we then also need to remember that cybersecurity is not a CERT issue. So cybersecurity is not an issue that CRAN is going to fix, because the first starting point to ensure that any network is safe must start at organizational level and primarily at user level, because when we get our intelligence, we are also picking up that a lot of the vulnerabilities that are leading to the attacks start with users not changing their passwords, giving their devices to the wrong person, and so forth and so forth. So those are the issues that we need to tackle. Prospectively, for the 2025-2026 financial year, we are going to continue with continuous capacity development. We are also going to continue adding more threat intelligence sources. This is important, and they also need to be credible, because I know if I come to you and I say your network is compromised, then you want me to be as authentic and as valid as possible with the information that I am giving you. And a big chunk of our investments are actually going into threat intelligence sources. We're also seeking to enhance collaboration and engagement with our constituents, and we are really calling on both public and private sector organizations, local authorities, government ministries, everybody to come on board, especially the local authorities and the government ministries. But these days also apparently the big companies are not an exception. So everyone needs to come on board, and everyone needs to ensure that there is cyber hygiene. We are also going to continue sharing information. We have created an information sharing platform, and for that, members need to be validated so that the information is then in the correct hands. We are also going to continue with our international affiliations, additional collaborations with country certs, as well as cybersecurity advocacy and awareness, and then to conduct our maturity assessment. As I conclude, I think I would just like to say that if there are any key takeaways that organizations would want to implement in order to reposition and best secure their cyber posture, is firstly at national level, we need the legal frameworks. This will strengthen us, especially from a consumer protection perspective. I remember one of the incidences that we handled, consumer data was leaked into the public space, and we received an overwhelming amount of complaints from the public saying, my water bill is now online, my electricity bill, my marriage certificate, all my primary information data is online. And because we don't have a data protection law, it was very difficult to do any level of enforcement in the consumer interest as far as that issue is concerned. And then, of course, it's also just about responsible reporting and responsible manner in how we deal with the information, because on this hand, we are dealing with consumers who are complaining that their data has been leaked. On the other hand, we are dealing with consumers where some media houses would go into the leaked data, unravel it, and then create a story out of the consumer data that has been leaked. So the issue was that serious, and I believe that if we could get the consumer protection laws, then some of these issues would have been resolved. Organizational sustainability and cybersecurity needs to be treated as not just a sustainability issue, but also as a business continuity issue, because we always need to ask ourselves, if you are hacked, if your data is leaked, if your network is compromised, how do you recover from that? And we have had institutions that the backup was nowhere to be found, the data is leaked or the information has been taken, and now you have a business continuity issue. So it's also about looking at your organizational sustainability framework and make sure that you have the correct level of continuity and sustainability mechanisms. Essential sectoral buy-in as well as collaborations, as well as especially by industries that I identified as critical infrastructure. This is important because we need then to work hand in hand. I always say in the past when but we don't have it in this country, but in some countries, when they wanted to take over a country, for instance, they would go to the radio station and then they'll say, this country is now in my hands. But nowadays, the new coups, and I'm not giving anybody ideas, but the new way in which they do it is through cybersecurity, cyber incidences, taking over networks that control critical infrastructure, because if you can control critical infrastructure, then you basically control the country. So we need that buy-in so that we can just make sure that the space is then protected. And then, of course, building trusted information sharing platforms as well as transparency. And information sharing, I want to just pause a bit and speak about that. And imagine now if you're sitting here and you receive a call that your organization has been hacked. So the question that we always ask is, what are you going to do? Who do you call first? What do you tell them to do, right? And one of the experiences that we had with one of the incidences that we managed was that the organization came out and it said to the consumers, yes, we have been hacked, but don't worry, your data is secure. And we are saying, do not communicate that, because you don't know. At that point, you don't know what they have. You don't know to what extent you have been compromised. And 2 days later, consumer data was online, leaked all over. And 2 days before that, the organization was saying, don't worry, everything is in order. So what we have picked up from that is that you need to be clear about your communication channels when you have been hacked. Who do you call first? What do you tell them? Communicate transparently, but also communicate in a manner where you know that you are not in control, at least at that point, because if you were in control, you would not have been hacked. So until you are certain about the extent and the scope of the incident that you are handling with, be very cautious about what you are communicating. And then issues around awareness, both at national and institutional level. This is very important. Employees, what can you share, what can you not share? I know there is one thing that annoys even me personally is having to change my password every other day. And you're just like, why do I need to do this? But it's part of those small steps that you need to take to ensure that when you look at it from a broader perspective, your network is then secure. So finally, I think my parting thoughts is really that through a unified effort, we can combat cyber threats, but we need to ensure that we build secured networks, and only once we have secured networks can we speak about a safe digital space for Namibia. And the more people we are putting online, the higher the risk of cybersecurity. The other day, my cybersecurity manager said to me, Madam CEO, in technology, we say there's only two organizations as far as cybersecurity is concerned, the one that has been hacked and the one that is yet to be hacked. So if you are not being hacked, then you are the other one, and you need to ensure that you put in place the necessary measures. Thank you very much.